Argentina and France this weekend, folks. Game number 2 between these sides. Argentina, very disappointing last week. Couldn't beat a second or third string French side at home. And France, despite getting that famous win and then a midweek win over Uruguay as well, will be concerned and disappointed with some of the off-field issues that have been going on in terms of one guy being sent home for putting out a racist video and a couple of guys accused of sexual assault. So not a great news week for the French off the field, but the on the field results are 2 from 2 thus far. We will go through the squads which have been announced, some of the stats, predictions, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. But as I said, Argentina, quite disappointing last week. I don't think everything is bad news for the Argentinians. I do think they can come back and put in a much better performance this week if a few things are cleaned up. One of those things is going to need to be the scrum. Last week's scrum was under a lot of pressure. It was going backwards. It was conceding penalties. They have made a change with Mayco Vivas getting a start at loose head this week ahead of Gajo, who drops to the bench. Montoya and Bello continue on in that front row. They need to get at least parity against France. Even if they're under a slight bit of pressure, that's probably fine. But they can't be conceding the penalties and the kind of just physical dominance that they did last week at home in Mendoza. It's going to need to be a much improved performance. Franco Molina is going to get his first start in the second row. He places Alemano, who drops to the bench. And then a good news story for Argentinian rugby. Pablo Matera will bring up his 100th cap in Buenos Aires. So he'll be looking to celebrate that one with a win. It's a big effort from him. And I think he's the only third Argentinian player to get 100 caps. So that's also a massive achievement. Kremer and Oviedo alongside him in that back row. Bazán gets the nod at number 9 this week ahead of Bertrano. So he'll be looking to play quick ball. Santiago Carreras is alongside him in the number 10 jumper. Chocobares return to the Argentinian side is certainly a welcome piece of news. Remember, he missed last week's game due to kind of late season commitments with his top 14 side, but his return and being the only Argentinian midfielder who's in his 20s is certainly, I think, welcome. Moroni continues on at 13. Delguy is on the right wing. He looks sharp, even if he didn't quite get himself on the scoreboard last week, but I think his return to the Pumas colours was a positive one. Mateo Carreras is on the other wing, and then Santiago Cordero gets the nod ahead of Bogado, who drops out of the squad for this one. So a little bit of tinkering from coach Felipe Contepomi. Other guys to be brought in. Rubiolo is in the number 20 jumper as your kind of forward replacements. And Albonoz and Orlando continue on as the 2 back replacements alongside Bertrano. So it's 3 backs, 5 forwards for the Pumas on the bench. For France, as I mentioned, the off-the-field stuff has been all the talking points. But for the guys on the field, they have made a few changes. The front row is still the same with Gros, Barlow, and Colombe, who were putting the Argentinians under a lot of pressure last week. So they'll be looking to do more of the same. Guillard is going to get a start in the second row this week. And then the back row is shifted around with Nushi at number 6, Concordia at number 7, and then Joseph at number 8. Remember, Concordia was supposed to play last week against the Pumas, but was a late withdrawal due to an illness. So welcome back to French colours for him at last. Serrant is still there at number 9. He captains the side. He captained the side well last week. He kicked well. He scored a fantastic try. So they'll be looking for more leadership from him in the number 9 jumper. And Astoy pulled the strings well at number 10. The midfielder Frisch and Gaiton continues. Frisch had a debut to remember in terms of scoring a try and putting in a try-saving tackle and being France's, I think, equal top tackler. So certainly did his chances of continuing under Fabien Gaultier a good bit of a boost. And then Theo Atisogbe on the right wing. What a player. He's only 19 years old, but he really looks like one for the future. Scored a cracking try through 3 Argentinian defenders. We'll see how he goes. Etienne is on the other wing, and then Leo Barret also there at fullback. Other changes on the bench. Briat plays in the number 20 jumper. Tisserand in 21, Jeannot in 22, and Bordeaux in 23. So 2 back replacements, 6 forwards. And remember, some of these guys, like Tuilangi's on the bench, like Briat is on the bench, played midweek against Uruguay. So they may be kind of having limited minutes, having 2 games in the same week. Stats-wise, I mentioned it's not all bad news for Argentina. Like last week, they had double the knock-ons of the French. If that just gets more to a normal number, if it's not double, even if it's 1 or 2 more, I feel like we'll put the Argentinians in a much better position. I think it was 8-4, so they need to be more careful with the ball, but that's often one that doesn't remain stupidly high. It will usually come down after 1 week having a bad week, first game back. So if that comes better, I think they'll be in a better position. They had more clean breaks than the French. They had more defenders beaten than the French. They had more run meters than the French. So there's certainly some positive signs, but the scrum struggled. That needs to be an area, as I said, at least of parity for the Argentinians. For the French, they put in a lot of kicks. Both sides kicked a lot in this game. There were certainly more kicks in this game last week compared to any of the other games at the weekend. And France, the number one for kicks, they had 43, which is more than most games had in the entire kind of 80-minute performance. They tackled at 90%, did the French, which is fantastic. They had 11 offloads, which continues that French style of liking to have a bit of flair with that solid scrum that they have, with that solid tackling percentage they have. So really, really pleasing from that point of view. Last week, 28-13, as I mentioned, it's a pretty lopsided scoreline. Hopefully a wee bit closer this time. The bookies are still saying Argentina, despite last week's loss, by 4 points. And then the rugby forecast algorithm is going the other way and saying France is going to get it done by 8. Remember, the algorithm doesn't take into account that there's no Dupont and no Intermark and all these other guys, Cyril Bay and Marchand, all the guys who are back home in France. It is on a Buenos Aires. It is a late afternoon kickoff, 4 p.m. kickoff. I think 7 in the morning for those of us in New Zealand, which is pretty solid. Andrew Brace is the ref for this one, so fingers crossed he has a good game. You guys let us know your thoughts on how this one is going to go. Do you think Argentina can bounce back? Do you think France can go 3 from 3 on their South American trip? You guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.